Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a compilation Christmas DIY video. So I have put together 16 of my previous Christmas projects. These are all like scrap wood DIY projects. Some of them are like thrift flip projects, but they all are with wood. I really enjoyed putting these together and seeing what I have done in the past, which gave me inspiration for future projects for this coming season. So I really hope that you enjoy this video, you get inspired, and let's get started on these projects. This first project, I'm using these pieces of wood that I actually grabbed from Hobby Lobby. It is a 4-pack of like faux pallet wood. So if you have fence board or pallet wood, this would work perfectly fine for this project as well. I'm also using these set of stencils that I did get from Amazon. I got them last year and I'm pretty sure I can still find them. I will link them in the description box if I can find them for you. I love these stencils. I made wood signs with them last year and I'm going to do something similar this year with them. So for these pieces of wood, they are about 24 inches long and I'm just cutting them in half so that they will fit the stencils perfectly. The stencils are 12 by 12 squares if I remember correctly, so this fits perfectly. So like I said, I'm just going to cut them down. I'm not going to sand them. They have that rough look. They are a little textured, but they're not super textured to make the stencil difficult to use. So that's why I'm not going to sand these down. Now the cut edges, I am going to just be using dark and decrepit to kind of blend in to match the wood color that that this has. If you have antique wax from Waverly, that would work as well. So for these stencils, I'm actually going to be using bits and pieces of each stencil to make these individual signs. So I am going to be using chalk paint. Sorry about that. As I was recording, Trigger found the loudest toy that he could find. So anyways, I am going to be using an off-white colored chalk paint. The great thing about stencils, you can use any color that you want for whatever sign you are making. So I'm going to be using this white color for all of the signs, and I am taking a stencil brush and I am dabbing the stencil brush straight up and down. I'm doing I'm really trying not to put a lot of pressure on the from the stencil brush onto the stencil. And I also, if you've noticed, I am kind of offloading my paint. So I'm dipping my stencil or my brush into the paint, and then for not this one right here because it has such an open area, but especially for the wording, I am going to be offloading most of the paint onto the paper towel so that I don't get any bleed through from using the stencil brush onto the stencil, and I got zero bleed through. I was really happy. These stencils just take some time and a little bit of patience. If you just keep going up and down, then and using a little bit of paint at a time, if you need to do a couple layers of paint, that is a lot better than having too much paint on your brush because then you will get bleed through. All of these signs that I made, these stencils were wide enough to basically fit the 12-inch piece of wood. This one sign was smaller and I wanted to fill in the space on the sides using some twine, and I decided to use baker's twine instead of the regular twine just to add some Christmas color to it. You could have just left this alone, or if you wanted to even add some greenery to the sides, that would look really pretty as well. But I'm just adding I'm wrapping the baker's twine around 3 times on each side and just adding a little bit of hot glue onto the back to hold it in place. And these signs are done. Okay, I know these look like pumpkins because they are, but this project we're going to be making wood Christmas presents, and I had these leftover wood pumpkins from a couple videos ago, so I'm going to be turning these into the wood presents. So what I'm going to be doing is just cutting off the middle portion that looks like the stem. I'm cutting it off so the top is flush. It's all the same height so that it will look like a present. If you are interested in how I made these in the first place so that you can make your own pumpkins or you can make your own Christmas presents, I will leave the video link in the description for you so you can see how I made it. I do have a step-by-step process on making these wood pumpkins. So once these are all cut down, I believe the measurements are the smallest one is 10 inches, the medium is 14 inches, and the tall one is 20 inches. I believe those were the 3 different heights. So I decided that I was going to sand these down and give them a really good distress. These pieces were sealed with the spar urethane, which is good for outside use because I made these so that they could go on a front porch. So it did have a very good thick coat that I was trying to sand down, and I wanted to paint them individual, like different colors, but when I started to distress them back, I actually really liked how neutral and distressed they looked. And I remembered that I have all these different color ribbons, so I decided to keep the wood pieces themselves neutral and then jazz them up with the different ribbons that I have. So for these presents, I am going to be taking 2 strips of ribbon. I'm going to go one, obviously you can see is vertical, and then the other strip I am going to go horizontal. And when I do the horizontal piece, I'm going to have it not in the middle, but a little bit higher up. That's just how I wanted to do it. If you're making these for yourself, you can add the ribbon any way or orientation that you want. I just really liked how this looked. So I'm going to be doing 3 different ribbons for each size. For all of these presents, I am going to be using the same greenery, and these are greenery that they are from picks from Hobby Lobby that I have cut off the pieces so that it goes a longer way. I'm not using one whole pick per item. So I've had these for a year now, and I know they still sell them at Hobby Lobby. These picks I'm talking about. So I am going to be using the staple gun to attach the ribbon and the greenery because I don't want anything to happen to them. I am going to put these in my booth for Christmas time. Our Christmas refresh is November 7th, I think, is our vendor night, and then what is it, like the 9th or the 10th? A couple days later is going to be the Christmas open house. So I will be getting the booth all flipped and rearranged on the 7th for Christmas, and I definitely want to have these pieces in there. I'm working on two different hutches. I'm going to be doing a complete different look in my booth. I'm really excited and I cannot wait to decorate it for Christmas. So I cannot wait to share that with you guys as well. For the other pieces of these Christmas presents, I have these bells that I also grabbed from Hobby Lobby last year, a huge pack for only a couple dollars, and I am going to attach them to the greenery pick with twine so that, again, they aren't going to go anywhere. And the only thing I'm using the hot glue gun on are these oh my gosh, it's not acorn. What, pine cones. Yes, these little tiny pine cones. Again, I also did grab this huge pack of pine cones from Hobby Lobby this year in the Christmas section. They do have them in the fall section, but the Christmas section was 50% off, so you actually got a better deal. Fall stuff was only 40% off. Although now at this point, they probably don't really have any more of the fall items. So disregard that. But yes, these are in the Christmas section and these pieces are done. I really hope you guys like them. These are like probably my favorite things I've made in such a long time. So I cannot wait to hear what you guys think. Project 2 and actually Project 3, we're going to be using this scrap 4x4. I believe it was an 8-foot long 4x4. It was actually given to me by a friend. So I am going to be making for this project sets of wood presents. I've seen these on Pinterest for a couple years and I've wanted to make them and I finally am. So I am cutting down this 4x4 and each set is going to have a 4-inch, a 6-inch, and an 8-inch piece of wood for the presents. So once I get a couple sets cut down, then I'm going to sand them all. I just do, I think it was 120, just because this 4x4 came from like a fence post outside, so it needed to have a good sanding to get rid of all the gunk. So I am going to be staining one set with this, I believe it's honey, and then the other set I'm going to be painting white, and I'm just using the antique white paint, house paint that I get from Walmart. So I am actually batching a bunch of these out for a craft fair I have coming up in 2 weeks. So you may see a whole bunch in the background. But for the white ones, I am not doing full coverage. I am just trying to give it a distressed look without having to actually sand it again. And because this wood, it's smooth, but it still is kind of rough at the same time, so it was super easy to get that distressed look. Once everything dried, I just went to my stash of ribbon and I grabbed all the ribbon that I had because I wanted to do a variety of different sets so that people had options. So I am doing buffalo plaid, and then I ended up finding at Aldi, in like the Aldi Find holiday section, there was a ribbon that had like holly berries or like mistletoe or something on it, and I grabbed that as well, and I absolutely love how it looks, which you guys will see. To top off the presents, I am using these greenery picks. I got them from Hobby Lobby last year, and I actually grabbed another pack this year, so they still have them. And then I also grabbed these bells. They are in a pack of, oh, I don't know, there's probably like 20 or so. You can see them in the corner of the screen here. All of those bells I also grabbed from Hobby Lobby. So as you guys can see what I've been doing, this is super easy This was such a fun project, and what's even better is you can customize it to your color scheme that you have going on. You can paint the presents anything you want. You can have each present in a set a different color if you want to. So there's a lot of variety with this, and I'm like obsessed with these, and I know these are from the craft fair that I have coming up, but I really want to make a set for myself to keep here at my house. Um, I just really like them. I hope you guys enjoy it and you guys get inspired to make presents for yourself too. For project 3, we're going to be using the leftover scraps of that 4x4. So most of these um, pieces are about 4 inches tall, and there's one that you can see, that one is I think like 6.5-ish inches tall, and if you can see here, we are making snowmen. So I am doing snowmen that are 3-tiered as well as 2-tiered. So the 2-tiered one is the taller of the 4x4s. And I attach them together using wood glue. I let them sit overnight. These are super sturdy. They're not going anywhere. And I am painting them with that antique white paint, house paint from Walmart. I do a very rough coat on it. You know, I'm not getting really good coverage because I want this to be super rustic. And then I did end up making a mixture of the antique white paint with baking soda, and I made it super thick, so it was kind of like spackle because I didn't have any spackle on hand, and I really wanted to make it look like, you know, like snow was kind of building up on, you know, on these snowmen, and it added more like texture and dimension to it. And I really, really like how it ended up turning out. So I did that on all of the snowmen, and I just put it in random spots, you know, just how it kind of like looked best to my eye. And once everything dried, then I decided against using ribbon for the scarves. I ended up finding fabric. So I had this towel that I'm pretty sure I got. I don't even know where I got it. I've had it for a couple years and I've never done anything with it. So I decided to cut strips of it to make the scarf. And I really liked the pattern on it. It's very neutral, and I thought it went well with like the rustic look that these snowmen have. So I I literally just tied around the top to make the scarf. I was going back and forth on if I was going to do like an eyes or nose or like, you know, like the 3 buttons on him. I definitely was going to do hands or arms. Um, in the end, I went against doing everything but the arms. So my husband has rusty nails. He never threw them out from like fencing or something, he said. So I'm actually using these rusty nails as the arms for the snowman. And guys, I'm obsessed. I am 100% obsessed with these snowmen. I am making them for the craft fair, but I'm definitely making one, if not 2, for my house, like on my hutch and somewhere else. So I really hope you guys enjoy this one because this is my favorite. Going to be using 3/4 inch plywood as well as just random scraps that my husband had. They're either like pine or maple um, pieces that I'll be using as trim for the wood. And I have an actual video from like start to finish of how I make my wood signs, which I will leave in the description box if you are interested to see. But I am just going to fast forward here, and I once I've sanded all of the plywood pieces down, I just take a foam roller and I'm going to be doing 2 coats of this white paint. It is just basic house paint, like the latex, house paint. Um, I do 2 coats of that. I let it dry thoroughly, and then I'm going to get ready to use these stencils. Now, I have never used a stencil set like this before. Because I have a cutting machine, I always make my own stencils and apply it to my signs. But I really wanted to try a stencil set out because when I am prepping for an event like a craft fair and I have to batch a bunch out, I really just wanted to see if this would be faster for me and if it was going to be easier. So yes, with a cutting machine, I can make my own stencils, like reusable stencils. I just have never made a reusable stencil yet, so I need to do some research on how to do them for myself. But I really did like this stencil set. It is a thick stencil set. It's really good quality, like it's not going to tear, it's not super flimsy. So I really did like that quality. And I believe it was 8 pieces, like 8 individual stencil pieces for like $14. So it was a really good price point too. And all of these signs, I am just going to be using like red, green, and black for them because I have the white base. So I do not have the correct brush for this stenciling. I came to find out. So I'm just using regular paint brushes that I'm like dabbing up and down um, on all of these. And what I really need to get, and what I would suggest you guys getting if you don't already have one, is an actual stencil brush. So I have a stencil brush, but I use that for like waxes and stuff for other projects. So it was dirty and I didn't want to use that. But I want to do this again using an actual stencil brush. I had very minimal bleeding because I was doing light pressure and light coats. Like I think I did 2 coats of everything, but I wasn't doing a lot of pressure and I was dabbing up and down versus painting. If you've seen my other videos where I can paint on my stencil because it's adhesive, where this is not adhesive. So if there was areas that I had any bleed through, I just touched it up with the white paint for that I used for the base, and you can't even really tell that there was any bleeding that happened. So like I said, I do recommend this stencil set. I really enjoyed it. And these are great because you can, cut your size, your wood down to however large you want it. Like I'd already cut these pieces of wood down, forgetting to pay attention to the size of my stencil. So I couldn't fit the full like candy cane or other full stencils that I really did want to. So I'm going to have to go back and make some more. But I really did like how they I was able to use bits and pieces of each stencil. And I'm staining all of the trim pieces in espresso by Minwax. I go between like espresso and honey, kind of just depends on my mood, but I really liked how the dark contrast looked with these colors. So once everything was dry, I just take my pin nailer and I do 3 or 4 nails on to each side depending on like how big the sign is. And these signs are done. I definitely, like I said, want to make some more, and I will leave the link for my other video on start to finish on how I make these wood signs. So I really hope you guys enjoy this, and you guys also hopefully will try out the stencil set yourself. We're going to start these projects with these spindles that I cut down from unfinished bedposts and spindle pieces that I got from a garage sale earlier this year. I have done some projects with them and I have some left over, so I'm cutting them down to the different sizes that I'm looking for. I'm going to be doing two different projects with these. So the smaller ones are what we're going to focus on for this first project, but I also have these larger ones cut down, and those will be later projects coming on. So the spindle pieces, I actually had my husband cut them down for me. I just marked different sizes. I was trying, for the small ones, I'm going for more ornaments or small decor pieces. And then for these larger ones, I'm going to set aside for more like salvage looking pieces and or risers. So we're, like I said, we're going to focus on these small ones for this first project. For all of these small ones, because I am going for the rustic, like vintage farmhouse vibe for these projects, I want to have a really natural looking distressed look. So I'm going to be applying wax to all of the small spindles, and then I'm going to immediately apply different color chalk paint to them. I'm also not doing full coverage, but I'm trying to give it most coverage. I'll give it like 90% coverage. And the wax is going to help with the distressing because the paint will not adhere to the wax. So once everything else is dry and we go to distress it back, then anywhere that the paint was on top of that wax, it will be removed. So it'll have more of this distress, like natural distress look. So you can use a sanding block or a sander. I'm actually going to scrape it off this time. I don't know if I've done this technique in the past. I usually just sand it down, but I have seen other YouTubers that have used the scraping technique, and I wanted to give it a shot. So for all of these, I am just using my Cricut scraper. If you have like a paint scraper or something like that, that will work as well. And I am just using the scraper across the entire piece, especially where I remember where I put the wax. And then, like I said, the paint just kind of like flakes off. And because it flakes off, it gives a more natural distressed look versus sanding. So once I have that completely done, I decided that instead of using like a polyacrylic sealer, I was going to do clear wax because I wanted to age these pieces even more. So I'm using the clear wax, and then once the clear wax is applied, I am going to be using Dixie Belle dirt. So it's like a powder, but it looks like dirt, and hence the name. So I am just going to apply the dirt or dust all over the piece with this chip brush, and then I'm going to take a cloth and wipe back the leftover so that the powder isn't like, it doesn't come off in your hand because it has been rubbed into the wax and the remainder has been removed. And it just gives this really old, like rustic look to these pieces that I really like. And it was exactly what I was going for. So two of them, I decided not to turn into like ornaments. I decided to put bottle brush trees in, and I just drilled a hole in the center of each of them. And these bottle brush trees I got from the Dollar Tree. These were part of the 20 trees that I got last weekend, or was it the weekend before? Well, I mentioned it in my last video. And so I did it for just these two because the base of them just looked like a bottle brush tree needed to go in them. The remaining four pieces, I added eye hooks to the top of them so that they could become ornaments. And these are the eye screws, excuse me. I grabbed them from Ace Hardware. So I did have that image up there of the size that I used. They had different sizes. I didn't know how many sizes that they had until I went there. So those were the ones that I picked. I really like the size of them for these ornaments. I'm just going to attach some twine to them or string, and then these are done. I hope you like this first project and let me know what you guys think. The first project, I'm going to be using these scrap pieces of fence board. I've used them for other projects, but they actually kind of fell apart. So I had these two pieces and I decided that I was going to make kind of like Christmas wall pockets out of these. And what's great is this concept can be used for different seasons. So if you are over Christmas, you can take this idea and use it for springtime if you want to get a jump start on your spring crafts. So I'm going to be using these two picks from Hobby Lobby, and I'm also using this burlap ribbon that I grabbed from Hobby Lobby when their fall section was like 60% off. If you have bigger pieces of burlap, then that will work great too, or another type of fabric for the pocket portion. I just wanted to use this because that was all that I had on hand. And of course, I'm also just trying to use everything that I have in my craft stash already and not have to go out to the store for last minute Christmas crafting items. So this ribbon, this red ribbon, I did grab from Marshall's probably about a month ago. I wanted to use it with some Christmas presents, but I have so much of it, so it's really great for crafting as well. So I'm going to trim down the picks that I have so that they fit the fence board. I think this fence board is about 12 inches tall. I forgot to measure it, but you can also, again, make this any size that you want. But I believe that this is about 12 inches. So once I have it placed where I want them, I am going to secure them in place using my my stapler. I really like using the stapler, especially on wood, so I don't have to worry about using like wood glue or hot glue or anything like that. So for the wall pocket portion, because I'm using ribbon, I do have to wrap it around several times. And I'm just going to secure one side with the stapler, and then I'm going to slowly wrap it. And as I wrap it, I'm going to move the ribbon further down, as you can see, so that obviously it's not just straight across. It eventually looks like a pocket. And then I'm going to, for the bottom portion, because it was open, I'm going to use, or not use, I'm going to kind of like fold it like a present, is basically the best way that I can describe it. I'm going to fold it like a present and then I'm going to staple them together. At first, I was going to use hot glue, but the stapler ended up working perfectly fine. I just did it at a slight diagonal. Sorry that I'm out of frame here. But like I said, the stapler worked perfectly fine. So I did that for both of them. I thought that these two crafts here, since they are identical, would look really cute outside, like on your front porch, on either side of the door, especially if you have lights on either side of your door. I thought it'd be really cute if it hung underneath of it, or if you have a place inside the house too. I mean, a pair of them would look really cute together. So that's why I ended up making two, because I thought they'd be really cute together. I was, at first, I thought I was done. And then I was like, you know what? I think this needs a little tag. And I decided to use this Christmas musical cardstock that I've had for a couple years and I've never used it. So I'm using this acrylic tag as my template, and I'm just using my X-Acto knife to cut out the tag, and I'm going to use my hole punch, and then I'm just going to attach it with some twine, and then that's it. I decided not to add any wording or anything to it because I liked just how simple the Christmas music looked with this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first project, and please let me know what you all think. For our last project, we're going to be using this wood block. It's actually the bottom part of a large spindle. I did cut up that spindle in either last video or the video before, and I had this piece left over. So I decided, because I had these extra bottle brush trees, that I was going to put the bottle brush trees on the top to kind of make it look like a forest. So I spaced them out visually, and then I'm going to mark roughly where I want to drill my hole. I don't do a lot of math. I don't measure a lot. So this is how I am doing it. I do a little mark, and then I am going to take a ruler just to make sure that I do have like that mark there is in the center. But that is about the only math that I'm going to be doing for this piece, so don't worry. So I'm going to drill the holes once I have them marked. I cannot remember the bit size that I used, but I did, once I removed the base from the trees, I did match up the bit with the wire portion of the bottle brush tree that was going to be fitting into the wood block. So once I drilled the first hole, I did make sure that I could fit the bottle brush tree into that hole, and then I completed the rest of the other two holes. And then I'm just going to bring this back inside and finish this project up. The one end of this block that was cut definitely had a different look to it than the rest of it. So I just used some watered down antique wax to apply to that side to kind of age it and match the rest of the block as best as possible. And then I'm just going to attach the bottle brush trees with some hot glue, and then I thought this project was done, but then I decided that I wanted to add a stencil to the front of it, which I wish I realized beforehand, because I had to angle this block so that it wouldn't lay flush on its side and ruin the bottle brush trees that I had. So I just made this a little bit more difficult for myself. But these stencils, I absolutely love them. I got them from Amazon. I will link them in the description. I think you get like 5 or 6 different stencils, and I've used them a lot and I love them. So I'm just going to be using a portion of this stencil. I am using black chalk paint and a stencil brush, and I'm going to offload as much of the chalk paint as possible onto the paper plate before I start applying it to the stencil. That way I can avoid any, or potentially avoid as much bleed through as possible. And I'm also just going to make sure I dab up and down. I do try the swirling method here, very light pressure, and I'm just going to swirl, and that actually worked pretty well too. Again, not a lot of paint and not a lot of pressure. I did not have any issues, and I really like how this turned out. I'm going to spray seal it when it's done, and this piece is finished. I really hope you guys like this one. Okay, for this first project, we are going to be making over these thrift flips. The first one here with the seashell I did on a video in the springtime, I believe, and it has sat in my booth this entire time. And this one that I am messing with right now with the transfers on the front. I did those about a month ago for an event and that didn't sell either. And I wasn't really happy with it. So I decided that I'm going to do something different with them completely. So I sanded down the transfers to the raw wood, and I also sanded down the paint and the stamps from the other block. So I wanted to get as much of the paint off as possible. And instead of putting greenery in them, we're going to flip them over and make presents out of them instead. I love these so much more now, and I'm so happy that I did these. I love these. I love this project so much. So I am going to be doing one present white and then one present is green, and I have to do 2 coats of the green, but I only have to do 1 coat of the white chalk paint, and I do distress them just lightly all on the edges so that it does have a slightly distressed look. And then I am going to be adding ribbon to make it look like a present. So I'm going to be cutting the ribbon equal length, and I'm going to attach them with hot glue. So I'm going to, as you can see here, I'm going to tuck the ribbon onto the inside of the box, and I'm going to attach it with hot glue, and then I'm going to do the same thing so that the ribbon like crisscrosses it, just like if you were to make a present for somebody. I really like this red and cream colored ribbon that is sitting on the green box. I got it from Hobby Lobby. I really, really like that ribbon. I wanted to use it for both of them, but I also wanted them to be different. So that's why I didn't use the same ribbon for both of them, but I really love this red ribbon. Okay, for the bow. I know I've done this bow before, and I don't know if I've done a very good tutorial on it, so I'm going to try and do one again in this video. I have 6 equal strips of ribbon. I'm going to fold them in half and pinch in the middle, and then I am going to, once all 6 are folded in half and pinched, I'm going to be using a zip tie to hold them all together in the middle. Once I have them all positioned how I want, I'm going to tighten the zip tie, and then I'm going to fluff out the ribbon. So the tail part of the ribbon, I'm going to have 3 on one side and then 3 on the other, and I am going to trim the tails so that they have that nice cut mark on them, and then I'm going to fluff out the top portion of this bow. You can do this with 4 or 5 strips. You can also do 3 strips of one color ribbon and 3 strips of another, and then just alternate the ribbon when you fold them so that you have the different colors. There's a lot of different ways. I've also done 3 different types of ribbon. So I've done 2 strips of one color, 2 strips of the other, and then 2 strips of the last one. So there's a lot of variety with this type of ribbon. I really like making this ribbon, and it's pretty much the only one that I do make because it's the only one that I that I've figured out how to make. So this is my go-to ribbon. And then to attach the ribbon to the top, I'm going to be using my staple gun instead of hot glue. I want to make sure that this ribbon does not go anywhere. And I'm going to use the staple gun up as close to the top portion, like where the top part of the bow would cover up the staples. That's where I am using the staple gun. And again, I'm just going to refluff it, and once I do the other ribbon, then I decide to add a tag. So there were a lot of suggestions in a couple videos ago when I did the wood Christmas presents. A lot of suggestions were to add a tag to it, so I made sure to add a tag to these presents. And I'm just using these wood blocks. They're actually wood ornaments. I grabbed a pack of these from Amazon last year, and I don't really think I ever did anything with them. So I have a whole pack of them, and I am just going to use this little stamp, and I'm going to do From Santa on both of them. And I wish that I did like Love Santa instead of From Santa, but I didn't. And as I'm like watching this back, I'm like, darn, wish I did Love Santa. But you can do whatever you want to, you can stamp whatever you want, you can handwrite whatever you want. I'm going just to attach this tag with some, I believe I use just like regular twine, and then this project is done. I really hope you guys like the transformation of these wood boxes into presents. I am so excited for this project. So we're going to be using these wood leaves from Hobby Lobby. You get 3 in a pack. They are in the fall section. I grabbed them during the fall time when they were 40% off. I never got around to using them, so I decided that I was going to try and turn these into a Christmas project instead. And I do know that the fall stuff at Hobby Lobby is now 50% off. I'm not sure if these leaves are still available. I did want to share this. Now though, while the fall stuff is still there and on discount. So I am painting each leaf a different color. I am going to be using 2 new products for this project. So I'm using the Kindest Regards stamp by IOD, and I'm also going to be using rice paper for decoupage. I do get both of these items from 2 women in the vintage store that I have my booth in. They do sell IOD products as well as other products. I will leave the link in the description if you are interested. They do have a website. It is Happy Creations by Jessie May / The Creative Lion. So like I said, I will leave a link in the description so that you can order stuff. They do have a bunch of IOD products. I believe the rice paper, I can't remember if she said the rice paper was available online right now or not, but she does know that I am going to be linking their website. So I think they're going to try and get it up for you because this decoupage paper is amazing. I love this. So it is 1 sheet. And they are all these different size vintage Santas. I've never used rice paper before, so I was a little nervous. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I'm not the best at decoupaging, and I actually was able to successfully decoupage these Santas. So I'm so excited. So the rice paper is a little thicker, which made it easier, I think, than the items that I've been trying to use for decoupage in the past. So I am going to cut out all around the shape of the Santa, and then I decide to paint the backside of the Santa white. I have seen other creators do this. I know Sonnet from Sonic Garden Blooms, she does that. So I wanted to do that as well because when I placed the rice paper up against the leaves, you could see the color as well as the Kindest Regards stamp coming through the Santa, and I didn't want that to pop through the image when I applied the Mod Podge. So I am doing a healthy coat of Mod Podge on the leaf, and then I'm going to use the remainder of the Mod Podge that's on the chip brush. I'm going to apply it to the back side of the Santa, and then I'm going to place the Santa onto the leaf. From there, I am just smoothing it out, and then I'm going to let it sit. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to let it fully dry before I come back in with the second coat of Mod Podge over the entire thing. And like I said, this worked perfect. There was no tearing, no ripping, no bubbling. It worked so well. So if you are interested, like I said, the link to their website will be in the description. I really hope you guys enjoy this project. This is one of my favorites that I have done for Christmas so far, so I hope you guys liked it. Okay, for our last project, we are going to make over another thriftlet that I did several months ago. I did this Lazy Susan. I also believe in the summertime. I did apply a transfer to it, and I had also used the Dark and Decrepit to stain it. So I sanded it down completely. It came off super easy. I used, I believe it was 180 grit, and then I followed it up with 220 to soften everything up, and it sanded really easily. So I decided once I sanded it down, I really actually liked how the natural wood looked. And I am going back and using a stencil. This stencil set I have used in several videos, and I will make sure to link it. You get a set of like 5 or 6 from Amazon. I really like these stencils. This is actually, as you can tell, the first time I have used this stencil. And as I've done in the past, I am going to be using my stencil brush, and I'm going to use black chalk paint for this one. I am going to offload the paint from my brush as best as possible, and I'm going to dab straight up and down. I'm also going to twirl it a little bit with very light pressure and not a lot of paint. That combination will really help prevent as much bleeding as possible. And then once I have it fully stenciled, I'm going to remove the stencil while it is wet. I'm not going to wait for it to dry. And I love this one so much. I did let this fully dry, and then I did spray a clear matte spray on it first before I applied the polyacrylic. I did not want the polyacrylic to smear the chalk paint at all. I've had that happen in the past even when I've let it sit overnight. So I have just gotten in the habit of spraying it first and then applying polyacrylic. And then this one is done. I hope you guys like this one. I like this one better than the first Lazy Susan I did, honestly. I am so excited for this project. So we're going to be using these wood leaves from Hobby Lobby. You get 3 in a pack. They are in the fall section. I grabbed them during the fall time when they were 40% off. I never got around to using them. So I decided that I was going to try and turn these into a Christmas project instead. And I do know that the fall stuff at Hobby Lobby is now 50% off. I'm not sure if these leaves are still available. I did want to share this. Now though, while the fall stuff is still there and on discount. So I am painting each leaf a different color. I am going to be using 2 new products for this project. So I'm using the Kindest Regards stamp by IOD, and I'm also going to be using rice paper for decoupage. I do get both of these items from 2 women in the vintage store that I have my booth in. They do sell IOD products as well as other products. I will leave the link in the description if you are interested. They do have a website. It is Happy Creations by Jessie May slash the creative lion. So like I said, I will leave a link in the description so that you can order stuff. They do have a bunch of IoD products. I believe the rice paper, I can't remember if she said the rice paper was available online right now or not, but she does know that I am going to be linking their website. So I think they're going to try and get it up for you because this decoupage paper is amazing. I love this. So it is one sheet and there are all these different size vintage Santas. I've never used rice paper before, so I was a little nervous. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I'm not the best at decoupaging, and I actually was able to successfully decoupage these Santas. So I'm so excited. So the rice paper is a little thicker, which made it easier, I think, than the items that I've been trying to use for decoupage in the past. So I am going to cut out all around the shape of the Santa, and then I decide to paint the backside of the Santa white. I have seen other creators do this. I know Sonnet from Sonnet Garden Blooms, she does that. So I wanted to do that as well because when I placed the rice paper up against the leaves, you could see the color as well as the kindest regard stamp coming through the Santa, and I didn't want that to pop through the image when I applied the Mod Podge. So I am doing a healthy coat of Mod Podge on the leaf, and then I'm going to use the remainder of the Mod Podge that's on the chip brush. I'm going to apply it to the back side of the Santa, and then I'm going to place the Santa onto the leaf. From there, I am just smoothing it out, and then I'm going to let it sit. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to let it fully dry before I come back in with the second coat of Mod Podge over the entire thing. And like I said, this worked perfect. There was no tearing, no ripping, no bubbling. It worked so well. So if you are interested, like I said, the link to their website will be in the description. I really hope you guys enjoy this project. This is one of my favorites that I have done for Christmas so far, so I hope you guys liked it. For this project, we're going to be using these wood rounds from the wood pile from Hobby Lobby. They are thicker wood rounds than like the 1/4 inch. I forget how thick these are, but they're pretty sturdy. I do prefer the ones from Home Depot or Lowe's, but I really wanted to give these a shot, and um, I will say, so it comes in a pack of 3 for $12.99, and one of them was bowed pretty significantly, so I'm really only going to be able to use 2 out of the 3 wood rounds, which is why I prefer the thicker ones from Home Depot and Lowe's, but I really do like how this turned out. So I decided to use the Merry Christmas stencil, and the where I have the painter's tape holding it in place, there's actually like the green sack stripe. I don't know if you can see that. So I really wanted to include that in this sign. So I taped off where I wanted to stain, and I did the faux stain, as you could see, with the Waverly Antique Wax. And then once that dried, I do the middle section with Linen White by Rust-Oleum, and I do 2 coats, and I make sure I paint and I stain the sides because it is a thicker plywood, so you can see the sides. So definitely stain and paint your sides. And then I did stain the entire back with the antique wax as well, so you have a finished piece. And I love how I got a crisp line. I was kind of nervous if I was going to or not, but I got it. And I just attach the stencil and I hold it in place with painter's tape because obviously with these stencils, they're not adhesive. So I have to hold it in place. And again, I just do the dabbing motion up and down lightly, and I do 2 coats of everything. I um I'm trying to like move the brush as I dab it in like different directions so that I can get as best coverage like with the wording and everything as possible. The biggest tip that I can say with using these stencils is to take your time with it and not rush as you're applying the paint onto the stencils to help prevent bleeding and to hold down like the stencil where you're applying paint. As you can see, like I have my one hand where I'm slowly, moving it along and I'm holding pressure while I'm painting with the other hand because the stencil will move up and down and then you could get bleed through or any type of bleeding, to happen. So I forgot to record this, but I did, once everything dried, I did one just, coat of the Rust-Oleum clear spray before I did the Helmsman because I didn't want the red paint or any of the paint to smear onto, one another. So I did 2 coats of the Helmsman on the front once the Rust-Oleum clear matte dried, and then I'm doing 1 coat of um, the Helmsman, oh my goodness, sorry. 1 coat of the Helmsman on the back, and I also do the Helmsman on the sides. You want to make sure you get the sides as well. So because this was a thinner round, I made the mistake of using my normal nails that I have in my staple gun, and it went right through. So I had to go buy the 1/4 inch size nails or staples. So I am I just add twine and then I'm going to make this bow. So I'm going to try to explain how I make this bow because I don't make bows very often and this is the only way that the bows work for me. So I cut 3 strips of one color the same length and then I do 3 strips of another color. And I don't know what this measurement is. I just like eyeballed it, probably about like 12 inches or so. And then I fold over one ribbon and then I pinch it in the middle and then I go to the next color, fold it in half, pinch it, and then the next color. So you're doing like white, green, all the way around. And then I take my zip tie and attach it that way so that, people could use pipe cleaner or wire or twine. I just use a zip tie because it's easier for me to hold everything in place. And then I smooth everything out and then I have the 3 ribbon, the tails on one side and then the 3 tails on the other. And this way, when it's nice and flat, then I'm going to attach it with the staple gun. I like to use the staple gun instead of hot glue to ensure that it's going to be a nice, good, strong hold for whoever has it. And then I had these picks from Hobby Lobby when they were like 60% off because like everything's 60% off now. So I get them where I want them and then I'm going to staple them as well because like I said, I am going to be selling this. So I want to make sure that nothing is going to fall off and everything stays where it's supposed to stay. And that is it. I did add a bell in the middle, which you will see at the very end. For project 1, we are making spindle bottle brush trees. I have these spindles, actually, I took apart the vintage telephone table that I redid it was one of my earlier videos on YouTube. I'll link it. I have these bottle brush trees that I grabbed from the Dollar Tree, and I'm also using these wood rounds and squares. They come in sets of 4 at Hobby Lobby. So the spindles already had screws on one side, so I'm drilling a hole in the center of each wood base, and then from there I'm going to start to paint them. So I wanted to drill a hole in them in the center because I knew that it would ensure that there would be a stronger hold keeping the screw in there, like when I added the glue, if that makes sense, which is why I didn't take the screws out of the spindles. So all of the wood bases, I'm going to do like a faux stain with the antique wax because I thought it matched the color of the spindles as as best as possible compared to like using a regular stain. So once those were fully dry, then I decided that I wanted to do all the bases white. So I tried the wax method for distressing with the chalk paint like I did in my last video. That did not work at all. So I decided that I would just keep this look that I ended up doing with this one, where I just took a chip brush and I just did a messy coat, and I did not get full coverage, and I actually really like how this turned out. So you can see here that the tape did not work, and like I said, I just did the chip brush with the chalk paint all over it and not full coverage, so it was super rustic. And I did a dry brush of the chalk paint on the spindle. So I wasn't sure if I was going to do all of them like this or do like half and half. So half were going to look like the right and half were going to look like the left. Let me know in the comments what you guys would have done. I ended up painting them all white, like what I have right here in my hand. I really liked how it turned out with the trees. I thought it made the green on the trees pop. So I attached the spindle with hot glue, and then I did a healthy amount of hot glue to attach these bottle brush trees, and I absolutely love how they turn out, and they make the cutest sets. So you'll have to let me know what you guys think. I hope you all enjoyed this video and these projects. Hopefully you got some inspiration from some of these projects and are ready to create your own projects for Christmas. Let me know your favorite in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.